I'd like to welcome everybody to the first meeting of 2026 of the Planning and Zoning Board. Glad everybody is here. As always, we start off with a prayer, and I'm going to ask Ms. Judy Wheeler to lead us in prayer, please.
Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, for this new year that has begun, guide all of us to do and be what you would have us do. Guide us in ways to help our community, to support our community, to help those others that want to support our community. Help us do what is in the best interest of the people of this lovely home. Be with us as we go through tonight's meeting and in the days to come. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Has anything on the agenda changed?
Item number 6, the owner applicant requests that be deferred or removed from the agenda. He's kind of changing his ideas on the building, said he might come back, but he just didn't know at this point. So we'll remove item 6. We don't even have to discuss it from the agenda.
Okay. All right, so he will not be here. So this is going to be a fairly short meeting. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as written?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Wheeler. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the election of the chair and vice chair of this board. I stated my case last month, and so do I have a motion or a suggestion for the chairman of this board?
I'll make a motion that Mr. True stays the chairman.
I appreciate that, I think. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I appreciate it very much. I'll do my best. Last month I stated that Mr. Parnell wishes not to be vice chair for this year. So with that in mind, do I have a motion or a suggestion or nomination for vice chair of this board?
I move for Billy Barnfeld to be vice chair.
All right. He is not here. How does that work? You can just refuse it later?
Excuse me, that is correct. He could resign if he gets elected tonight. Then we'd have to have another election. So.
Okay. So we have Billy Barnesfield nominated for vice chair. Is there a second to this?
Yes, I'll second it.
Second by Mayor Tennant. Is there any further discussion on the matter? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We will, if he's watching, you're the new vice chair. So I failed to mention a new board member who's taking Grady McNeil's place. We want to welcome Terry Coates. I couldn't remember Terry, but it's. I don't remember your name either. That's fine. So anyway, welcome to the board. If you have any questions, either of us can help you out. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes of the December meeting?
Yes, sir.
Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as stated?
So moved.
So moved by Mayor Tennant. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Parnell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 4 is the public forum. At this point in the meeting, we invite anybody in the audience to come up and state your cases before the board on related topics. We just ask you to keep it to 3 minutes or less. Is there anybody in the audience which would like to address the board on any of the topics tonight? Yes, sir. Come to the podium and state your name and address.
Would y'all like this sheet that people signed up on?
Sir?
Would you like this sheet where
No,
people?
that's fine.
Okay. My name's Wesley Horton. I reside at 127 Terra in Goodlettsville. It's the vineyard at 12 Stones Crossing development. I vice president of the HOA there. We have 80 units, 80 homes in that development. And we know there's a topic of discussion for the rural event center that's been discussed adjacent to the creek, which is right straight across the creek from our development. Not really understanding what the full ramifications of the intentions for that event center, but the average age of our community is 75, 76 years old. Having an event center that's going to have dancing, loud music, and whatever's going on, I don't know if that would really benefit any of our residents. I guess they could take their walkers and try to walk around the corner and come to it, but I don't see that it'd be a lot of benefit for our community to have that there. Directly next to us is the Cottage Grove community that has approximately 100 homes there, all about the same age that we have. So I've lived at this address going on 19 years, and it's been a very great place to grow up, mature. It's kind of our retirement place, and I just don't see the need of why we need to have a rural event center. I play music. I'm a musician, have been for 65 years. I'm all about playing music, but I'm not going to do it next to where a neighborhood that's been well established that would disrupt their way of life and what they've committed to and put their hard-earned retirement dollars in to have that kind of community and have that kind of home. So I would ask you to be very careful and very diligent about finding the real benefits of what the community that it's being addressed to be in, and how that would benefit the community. I really don't see that as a positive at all, and I really appreciate y'all's support in directing that to maybe another location closer to town, someplace that's not directly related to a retirement type community with all that type of activity. I appreciate your time. Hope you'll have a great 2026.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Very well said. I know your name, but if you could state it for the record, I'd appreciate it.
Jim Hitt. I live at 723 Long Hollow Pike, which is a property directly to the west of the property in question here. I came before y'all a couple of months ago opposing a variance for this property, and my reasons for coming tonight are basically the same, mostly for which traffic noise, and possibly on down the road the request that alcohol be served at events here, and I just don't think that's the proper thing to be on this property. The idea of an ordinance being passed that would allow this sort of development in low-density and agricultural zoned areas, I hope is not brought forward. It was mentioned that something like this is akin to a church or a school being able to be built in this zoned area. And I don't think that's exactly right, because a church or a school, they are basically non-profit entities for the benefit of the community, whereas this is strictly a commercial request to be put in for profit. And I don't think that is the proper way to put this property to use. I hope that this is just not an attempt to spot zone this area. Spot zoning is, all of you all and myself when I was on this board, is considered the number one no-no, and I'm afraid that this is what this is kind of designed by putting another name on it. It's the ordinance talks about other properties, but as far as I know, there may be other properties around that would fit the parameters of this ordinance, but I don't know of any. So it looks like this is an ordinance designed for one piece of property, which I don't think is a proper thing to do. I appreciate y'all letting me come before you again, and I hope this ordinance is not sent up to the commissioners. Thank you.
Do you remember how many acres is on this property?
27.
This property has 27 acres. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Drew Hardison. I live at 854 Loretta Drive. I also own the property at 1008 Caldwell Drive. My wife and I are in the process of building a home there. It's the lot directly across the street from Moss Wright Park, approximately 3 acres. I'd like to discuss with you guys about the opportunity of building a guest home, a separate structure on that property as well. This structure would serve for my in-laws to live in part of the time. This would be a structure that is, similar to the home architecturally as well as the materials. Again, this is a 3-acre estate lot, so we're trying to keep the feel of the those estate lots that are along that stretch. So we're not looking to subdivide anything or break up ownership. We're looking to just keep it one owner and be consistent with the area. I think Adam may have even an example of what we're looking to do, but like to discuss that with the board tonight.
Is he on the agenda tonight?
No, but we could add it as a discussion item.
Are you prepared for that?
I mean, I've talked to them. I know what they're asking for. We can discuss it if you're all comfortable with it.
If there's no objections, we could add them to the, into the
Again, it'd be
discussion
just a
item.
discussion item. I don't know, there wouldn't be a vote on anything tonight, whether or not we could, grant this variant. I mean, it'd be a,
we'll get through the agenda item. We got one action item in discussion. I can discuss it, what they're wanting to do, what it would mean, like ordinance-wise for the city. We get to
So
it.
I guess we can discuss if there's not any objections, have a conversation about it. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, we'll see you at the end of the meeting.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board? Yes, sir.
I'm Tom Galbraith. I live at 126 Terra. And Wes and Jim said everything I need to say. I just wanted to let you know that I sit on my back porch, watch the birds and trees, and it's just a wonderful place. And I would hate to see something come in that nobody knows what it would be, but I know event centers sometime go on later than the people that are older in the community go to bed. So I hope we don't do something like that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else wishing to address the board? Seeing none, may I have a motion to close this portion of the agenda? So moved. Mr. Gilmore moves to close this public forum. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Parnell. Any discussions on this? All those in favor of closing the public forum, say aye.
Aye.
Forum is closed. We're ready for item number 5 now.
All right, Dry Creek Commons, Phase 1, we have a current $40,000 maintenance bond, has some drainage work and some sidewalk repair items. This section of the project is done. There's a Phase 2 on the upper part of the hill. This is on Dry Creek there. We kept the bond, this photo doesn't show good, but they had some issues when the sidewalks were poured, either it was hot or cold. It's got a lot of surface issues, and we've asked them to replace that. They were kind of waiting until they got further with the second phase, but I think at this point, the options would be to extend it with a note. This would be the last bond period we do, and we expect the sidewalks to be improved within this bond period. Or we could deny the bond extension and require the improvements be completed prior to the expiration here in January 30th. I've talked to them. They have replaced some sections, but they do have probably 4 or 5 sections left. So I'd recommend we, number one, we extend it one more time, $40,000, but it'd be the last time we do this with the understanding they complete the repairs for the replacement sections this bond year.
Any questions from the board? Adam recommends extending this for 1 year with a note that this is the last time. Do I have a motion regarding this item?
So moved.
So moved by Mayor Tenen. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Parnell. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. We are ready for discussion items now.
First one, draft zoning ordinance amendment, rural event, conditional use. We've talked about this for a couple months. We had a lady come in looking at the property. There's 2 properties, but totals, well, they were saying roughly 26 acres there at Willis Branch, Long Haul Pike. Wanted to do horse stables, like a photography studio, and also possible event center. We discussed, events could be weddings, things of that nature. Right now, it is zoned R40, so that use would not be permitted. Currently, we have any property R40 over 5 acres can do agricultural uses. They can have horses and sheep and stuff like that. Chickens are limited, and you can't do like a feedlot or anything. So this is a request. It would be to do an updated conditional use. This would be a zoning ordinance amendment to allow what they're wanting to do on that property. But it would not just apply to that property. There's tracks on Madison Creek, Patton Branch, and possibly Hit Lane, being the similar circumstances where we have zoned R40. I think this one's the greatest visibility, and that's why I think that they're looking at it. But like I said, this discussion tonight, but if we feel like we do not feel comfortable with this going forward, I can tell the applicant or the lady discussed the possible event center that the city's not interested at this point. But this ordinance is based on discussion we've had at this planning commission. The last time we met, there was a question about the acreage. We did the revised draft shows a minimum of 20 acres, but for the Board of Zoning Appeals could review properties less than that, no lower than 10 acres, if it has some type of limitation due to grade or elevation where the impacts to possible use would be not available on the adjacent properties, like if it's a cliffside or something of that nature. Number 2, they'd be only on main streets with multiple connections. So the point is that these would not be on a dead-end residential street. They'd have to be on a road with multiple connections elsewhere, like a main street, in other words. Occupancy would be limited to 100. We talked about different options on the occupancy based on the acreage. I'm keeping on down. I just highlighted the key points. And if they were to build any buildings with this, it'd be limited to 3,000 square feet, kind of keeping the smaller scale of this. And that'd be for the event center or an agricultural business type use. Building locations, you talk about the setbacks being increased to 200 feet, then 500 feet along the road. there be provision, any kind of parking, could be within 100 feet of the property lines or the 400 feet of the front. Business owner, like say this gets approved and it comes to the Board of Zoning Appeals for conditional use, they'd have to, part of the conditional use review by the Board of Zoning Appeals would be the proposed business plan, basically. The information on the operating hours, the type of events they would do, the services they would offer, parking lot, facility and the lighting, security, possible traffic control for events. The key with that would be we want to know their hours, the Board of Zoning Appeals would want to know what kind of events you do in there. You know, the lady discussed possible doing horse shows versus possibly weddings. You know, the hours, I think, would have concern due to the possible noise and stuff with that. I did put in there a section after our discussion that no carnival or circus type or concert type events will be permitted. I think there was concern if we do something, what kind of events would not be allowed? Anything else would be any kind of thing allowed by ordinances, an event. But it sounds like weddings, those natures, family reunions, get-togethers, those type of events, what they want to do in addition to the horses and the photography studio. Also would be extension of this would be animal agricultural products. If they wanted to do a horse stable there, that's something we currently, it'd be limited due to that, the zoning, but like doing an actual business for agricultural, we'd need to know that. Be limited to horses, cows, goats, sheep, chicken, and poultry would be limited to current ordinance, 100 square feet maximum on a coop, 100 feet from property lines. Would not be a chicken coop maintaining or processing any kind of pig facility or feedlot. So the goal is not to have the heavy and agricultural use out there as part of the business, but that would be something they'd have to propose up front. The deal about the chicken coops, the pigs, and the feedlots are already in our zoning ordinance in the agricultural and R40 districts. So there's a big kind of expansion of that to allow more of the business aspect of it. Of course, so this would be a conditional use that would be reviewed by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Of course, the Planning Commission will be involved for any actual site plans for any commercial type buildings. But like I said, this discussion item, we talked about a couple of months, but you know, I've heard some pros and cons of it, but I feel like this direction, if we don't feel like we're going to be interested in this, I could just let the applicant know. But it's just really for you all to cut the new draft based on the previous meeting we had and get your all's take on it. So.
Is that all? Okay, this is what, the third time we've been discussing this? Is that correct?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe 4 times, I don't know. I would like to see us discuss and get more of a definitive answer on whether we want this or not. I know my feelings, but I'd like to bring it to the board. Mr. Coach, are you familiar with this property? It's down Long Hollow Pike, a mile or so, 2 miles from here. Right, you know, and this is a 27-acre tract of land with a house, and they're wanting an event center put there, maybe with things such as horse shows and weddings, and is that correct? That sort of thing. There are houses surrounding it. There's houses across Long Hollow Pike from it. There's a subdivision very nearby. And so, anyway, so I wanted to bring this up to the board for discussions on pros and cons. And like I said, sir? Has there been any opposition from the neighbors? You just heard some. You just heard some. And that's about the only opposition that I'm aware of from several people, but I think they represent several other families, you know, so several other households. So anyway, let's discuss this a little bit.
Adam, am I wrong, but when the proposed or prospective purchaser of this property was here with this idea of this event center, was it not her intent to segregate the existing house and the existing guest house, sort of with the driveway going to Long Hollow Pike, into a separate parcel, and then have the event center on the property that then would surround the existing house, that I believe Dr. Smith still owns at this point in time.
I think
See, I just remember sort of a carve-out. They were gonna, in other words, have the house and the driveway, and that was gonna be still residential, but
Yeah.
then create a separate parcel for purposes of this event center.
Yeah, the goal would be to use the house to live in, and then the secondary house, they discussed some options that I don't think is ever defined, but yeah, if, in the future, they'd like to be able to do events in that area behind it.
Behind it. But there was the intent to separate into two parcels.
Possibly, it's 2 tracks now, so possibly, I don't know what their proposal would be.
Okay, so the house is just on the 5-acre tract, okay, all right.
I guess it really depends, if, say it got approved, how they finance and stuff.
I couldn't recall that, if the house was on a separate parcel. I just knew it was to be segregated from the activity and the secondary house.
You know, Tim made a good point at the previous meeting that, you know, we don't allow short-term rentals. We do allow bed and breakfast, so the owner could do in the house they would live in, but as far as like a short-term rental would not be permitted there. And where these properties will be available, like I said, they're larger acreage, like I said, Patton Branch was zoned R40, bigger lots, Patton Branch, Masson Creek, sections along Hall Pike, Hit Lane. You know, all these areas do have homes in the area. So they're all going to be in a similar, like an agricultural rural setting. So I don't know if it would be any different this one, but kind of similar.
But most of that property out Patton Branch and Madison Creek that still is in excess of this acreage already has agricultural use on it, which includes livestock.
Just not the business
Just
aspect
not the
of it.
business. We can have a business. I mean, you can sell cattle, you can sell
Yeah.
eggs, you can have chickens and.
But like have horse shows and stuff like that.
But having events is the
Yeah.
only difference between that already exists and what this ordinance would allow, correct?
That's the big,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially agriculture already exists. By state law, by county zoning, they can't do anything really. Agriculture was to supersede county laws. City ordinances, by municipal ordinances, there was a date, I think it's the early 90s, late 80s, anything after that, cities could regulate. So if they were pre-existing that, yeah, they can expand, but. See, that's why I said this will be an expansion kind of our current ordinance to allow more of the business aspect and the event aspect of the tourism, they call it now, the agritourism that you see throughout the state, so.
Ms. Wheeler?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I know the last time we talked about this, I think I made it relatively clear to you all that I have some pretty serious reservations about it. First of all, I live in the area. It's a quiet, lovely area for sure. And yes, I'm one of the old people, not on a walker yet, not to say it won't happen. But I will share with you all, I have in my past been real involved with horse shows and showing horses and that sort of thing. And I've not been to one that was quiet. Lots of folks, lots of people there for entertainment, not just to show their horses, but also to see the horses and see the competition among the horses. The noise is plentiful. I would be interested to know, Adam, about who's going to count the 100 people, and who's going to look for who's going to watch out for the trucks and horse trailers and so forth that come. And given the nature of this particular proposed development in that particular area where there are a lot of people who live, it looks very wide open because of the nature of that property. That's a wide open beautiful piece of land, no doubt at all. But there are many people who live within a block or less of that property. And all of that in consideration, to me, I am wondering about the supervision of the events that might take place there and what the consequences might be if there's something that doesn't follow whatever guidelines might be set up. Who's going to monitor that, take care of that, look into that? So I would say I still have those concerns about the use of that property in that way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, on a lot of these horse shows and events such as that, there's loudspeakers and announcements blaring, is that correct?
In the ones that we participated in, yes, and it was primarily Tennessee walking horses. Quarter show horses likewise do quarter horse shows likewise do the same. Now, the lady who's looking at the property, she did say that she didn't think her shows would be as big as I might be envisioning. I just have had the experience for lots of horse shows for a lot of years.
Thank you for your discussion. Anyone else have anything to say?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
and Adam, I just think from the past couple of times that we've discussed this, there's really been no true direction of what we would see in the future. Is that right? I mean, there was no renderings and,
Not at this point, no. It's just, we was just discussing if we would be open to doing a zoning ordinance amendment, because it would be required to do what they were wanting to do. So, just going off their discussion at the meeting, but that's why we're trying to put ordinances together, what the city's interest would be with it, to define that on here,
but also does this open up the door with the zoning being the same out Patton Branch and Madison Creek for,
yeah, you got property over 20 acres, they could, and that's the deal, those roads are all interconnected, so we don't have any, like, dead-end properties like that, so, yes, it would be open to others, but
okay.
this primarily would be the biggest for, like, I feel like the event, just for its visibility and access.
Anyone else? My feeling is that this is way too close to residential. I can see where this is just not a good location to do this. We have, in the past, denied another event center close by. I forget, was it on?
On past this, on the right.
Yeah, on pass on, I just don't see it. If this was more secluded, if this was more rural, if this was, I could see that being a possible. I just don't see it on this or in this area. That's just my thoughts on it. Any other discussions or thoughts? I don't know if you take this back to them and
I will.
tell them what our thoughts are. We had 3 out of the, we have 2 missing, so 3 out of the 7 who's voiced this. I don't know how the others feel about it, but I guess that's where we stand.
All right. All right, next discussion item, we adopted our comprehensive plan December. So now I'm kind of doing the follow-up, all the ordinances and policy changes we'll be making that has to be done by like official action. And one of the things, big things the residents wanted was the residential preservation area, like neighborhood preservation. Like we don't want to see, the Lord came in, the 3 or 4 story houses next to 1 and 2 story neighborhoods, or something gets subdivided. One thing, the state of Tennessee does not allow residential design standards on a typical lot like this. In a planned unit development project, that's a different story. It's a master plan. People are buying into an aesthetic. But example would be if you owned a an acre lot, what can the city, we don't have provision in place to say how much brick you have to have, the pitch of the roof, all that stuff. So what this would be, it's basically giving people, trying to be consistent with the area. But there is a provision there of a third basically percent deviation. This is like a draft, I was kind of what I was thinking. This will not be an easy ordinance to enforce, I can just tell you that right now, but what it would be, if someone builds a new house, or they're doing an alteration more than 50% of their house, in an existing established neighborhood, like Moss Trail was brought up in that area, anything new would have to kind of match the area. My goal would be take 5 houses in all directions, is be like the basis for it, or 500 feet, whichever's more. This would not be involved, like if you have a neighborhood, say there's a whole other neighborhood behind you, it's a different aesthetic design, that dimension would not come into play. It would be like the neighborhood you're in. So the goal would be they would come in, bring in plans that we'd want to see the scale, the height, the mass similar to the area. If it's a 2-story building, 24 foot tall, that the goal would be to keep that 33% deviation was basically allow some architectural alteration, freedom to do a little thing, to be generally within the look of it, but have some kind of different character about it. Just because homes are, homes you're built in the 60s and 70s versus what they build now, they're just not the same. So there's going to be some deviation to that. Roof slope and height is a big one. If they're pretty pitched roofs and all of a sudden someone do more of a flat roof, that's kind of one of the negatives you hear about some of the more modern looking homes. That would have, they could do within a third of that, they deviate from it. Build material percentages. If the neighborhood's primarily brick, the goal would be to see brick on it, but the goal would be not to do, they wouldn't have to do all brick. They could have brick but match kind of their own aesthetic, but still trying to match the intent of the neighborhood. Building square footage, I think this is probably the trickiest one. You always see people don't want new buildings to be built, they're smaller, but there's also kind of a request not to be larger. If the homes are all 3,000 square feet, and they don't want someone to build 1,000 square feet, or not necessarily 6,000 square feet next to them. So that one would be tough if someone did buy a larger property, want to do a bigger house. Our zoning ordinance allows 25% lot coverage on a half-acre lot. That's roughly an 8,000 square foot building. So we allow that in the zoning. So this, like I said, this would be something we had to put in the ordinance to prevent that. And then also building setbacks to property lines. We want to make generally that it matches. We don't have that come up at the corner malls up there before. They match generally the setbacks of the area that we're in. As far as lot subdivision, right now, we already have a provision where they can't come in and re-subdivide a lot in an established neighborhood where it's platted lots if it brings down the average lot size in that neighborhood. I think we'd want to keep that in place, but really how we'd handle the buildings would be what we'd want to look at. State law also, a couple years ago, we had to do a revised deal on the residential design, if you remember that, in our design centers. We had to re-adopt it by state law in a certain amount of time. And one of the reasons for, they wanted to have an appeals process defined. Of course, our Board of Zoning Appeals would not review any kind of design issues. There's no really slope on a property that affects brick or anything like that. So this planning commission, if somebody wanted to deviate further than a third, could come to this planning commission to review alternative designs. I think the intent with state law was to have a place where like a due process. If we turn them down that we don't think it matches, that they would have the ability to discuss that. And that would be this board. So just kind of thinking a way to define, we want to, every neighborhood's going to be different. So I can't put in there minimum square footage of a unit, minimum roof pitch, minimum materials, because all neighborhoods are different. So it really is about when they come in to pull a permit for a major addition or a new construction, that we kind of do a synopsis of what's around it, and that be the basis for it. And then this board could handle any kind of variance or deviations beyond that. So,
Adam, you mentioned square footage. Now, I can understand if there's majority of the houses are 3,000 square foot and somebody wants to come in and put a 1,200 square foot house, that would lower the value of those homes around them and stick out like a sore thumb. I can understand that. My question is it the same if there are 1,500 square foot houses all around and maybe a lot of siding, that sort of thing, and somebody wants to put the 3,000 or 4,000 square foot home, all brick, that to me doesn't stick out like a sore, you know, it would increase the value of homes surrounding them. So is there a major problem with going bigger and better?
I think the whole point is to try to preserve the kind of the aesthetic of the neighborhood. I mean, a lot of the negatives you hear about in Metro is that these houses are $1 million next to a small, you know, older neighborhood.
Well, yeah.
Kind of gets overbuilt. I mean, I can see what you're saying. That it is a different story because most people would probably think help my property values the positive, but I'm sure there's some people that feel like if it's out of character, it's a lot bigger. You know, if it's 3 times the size of all the houses on our street, I guess that'd be the issue with it, allowing just a bigger construction. Because, you know, you go around Nashville, you see a lot of the look now, the more modern, more flat roofs, a lot of glass, a lot of windows. They're not traditional in any way versus a normal, what you think of a branch brick or a 2-story type home. So I guess if we're trying to preserve the look of that neighborhood, I would think there'd need to be some limit on a larger square footage. And we could alter this. I mean, this is just to get a draft, get y'all thinking about it. It's tricky. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but I think we could do it. But it's going to require almost like a lot more time involved in when a building permit comes in, because it's really about the area itself. So
Maybe this isn't the time, I'll bring it up anyway, but Mr. Hardison, who's waiting patiently for us to discuss his, he's wanting to put a smaller guest house on his property. How would that fit in with what we're saying here with preservation?
Oh, that'd be more of a considered an accessory use. You know, what we kind of do now, the 70% match the general materials. We kind of have that in place right now, but.
Would it be a separate residential home? But it'd be on the same, I guess it'd be on the same property.
Same property,
Okay,
yeah.
I
So it's, by our zoning ordinance, it'd be accessory use. Of course, if we did something in the ordinance, yeah, we'd probably have to take into effect the roof pitch, all that stuff. If it's a major, like it's saying, a new construction, new residential unit, or if it's more than 50% of the existing, I guess if it's on the same property, you have to limit to the 50%, so.
How about our neighboring cities and communities? Where do they stand with?
It's, you know, a lot of people do planning developments, which is master plan based, and then the HOAs kind of take over. There's some cities that have things about roof pitches, materials. State law is pretty clear on residential design centers. There is no provision for it, and it excludes it. And like I said, that ordinance a couple of years ago, we had to redo it due to materials in residential buildings, where all that came from. So some cities push it more than others, you know, but the law's not really there for us. That's why I'm trying to think of a way where you still, what the intent is, you know, preserve the look of the neighborhood, but not go so over the top where they can't pick their own brick colors and the roof set on, they're going to be a ranch-style home. I think give some options there.
Adam, would this be applicable, intended to be applicable in all our zoning districts or just in certain districts that have our established neighborhoods, say out Loretta, behind the school here, that sort of thing, Moss Trail? I mean, you get out in the R40s, you got everything from a 1,200 square foot to a 10,000 square
That's
foot
true.
house. So I think it would have to obviously be addressed in certain zoning districts rather than blanketed across everything, because
Well, R40, that's the reason I put in there 5 units in either side or 500 feet. There has to be some limit where they're halfway down Patton Branch. You know, like you said, it's a 10,000 square foot house. It is tricky when you got big lots, because people, like I said, our zoning allows 25% lot coverage. So if you got a 10-acre lot, that's a monster building, and people might buy that to build a bigger home. As far as like, say, Windsor Green or, you know, places with HOAs, I think it would still apply, but their regulations would be more restrictive. They would still have, the HOA would still, most of them have architectural requirement. Example, Echo Hills, on Echo Hills, we approved that revision for the back section to finish, but their HOA is still active. And I tell people looking at those, you would still have to get approval from them to meet their design standards. Yeah, I mean, if there's a concern about the large acreage, we may put a limit on it where that would not apply. That's a good point. You know, if you do have all your lots around you are 5 and 6 acres, is it really the consistency as big of an issue? Like in an established neighborhood where it's platted lots and 70-foot, 100-foot wide lots. So. Like I said, we're not voting on that. I just wanted to throw this out, let y'all know. There's going to be several ordinances we're coming through. My goal over the next 2 years to kind of implement the comp plan. There's a lot to it. But this, I think, was the first one. This was, people were so, that's what one of the biggest things they wanted to see was protecting neighborhoods. So I put this as the top priority to go forward. But there's any concerns y'all see just off the top of your...
Adam, I have a question about, if I may, Mr. Chairman. It talks about a defined appeal process, yet it references things coming back to the Planning Commission. So what is your thinking about what is the appeal process?
If they wanted to deviate further than the fine 30, a third basically, you know, like if they want a different look and they can prove they feel like it still meets intent, they could come back to this board and look at it. I just have to have something to go off of in our ordinances to have a defined thing for them to, a number or some kind of percentage. Anything beyond that, this board, you know, they might say, forget it, I don't care what your ordinance is, I want to appeal. It's a due process issue for them to be able to come here to speak beyond just a staff member telling them they can't, so. And like I said, the Board of Zoning Appeals really has no authority when it comes to building design, so our Planning Commission is our design review board in the city by default, so.
It wasn't that long ago that a couple that's from Goodlettsville inherited a property on Carroll Ann Drive and came in to request the lot lines be revised so that they could move the existing house onto a lot kind of behind it and then build a new house on one of the new lots that's created and all that fun stuff. I feel like this ordinance would capture that scenario and require them to build a new house to match sort of houses that were built in the late 60s and early 70s, which I think is probably the realistic intent. But if they're just going to build a house that's going to match the 60s and 70s, why bother moving the other one in the first place? Because you already had a house that was,
The house they wanted to build, I know what you're talking about. I mean, it was an immaculate home, but it'd be a lot bigger than what was there now, than what was moved.
Okay, so how do they,
Like steeper pitch roofs, all that.
okay, and this would not necessarily limit, I mean, they would still be able to do generally what they had planned to do?
It depends on if we put the square, I think the other thing, I mean, it was a incredible looking home. I mean, it's nothing, it wasn't like it's gonna bring anything down.
But
You know, a
does
lot of
it
those
fit
slopes
the-
on roofs over there are not very steep, and of course, the modern looks more steep slope. So, if this was to go forward, which I don't know if this would ever be done in time to what they're wanting to do, but they might have to change their design.
Okay. Or come before the board and ask for variance, basically.
And that's a unique area up there, because the house across the street is more modern, got the steeper pitch roof, and those are more your ranch style with a lower pitch. And like I said, this is just the first draft. It's probably going to be several months before I get this. I just wanted to throw this out since there wasn't much on the agenda for us to talk about. If there's anything that's like Scott was saying, I don't know if it's necessarily fair if someone wants to do an architectural showpiece just because it's in an older community and they want to do something much larger. But like I said, there's going to be someone you probably don't want to see. They feel like it's taking the character away when you do something like that.
I kind of see what Mr. Parnell, and that's kind of my thinking too. You know, if you're going bigger and better, that to me, to a point, is much better than going smaller and, you know.
And I don't know if you've driven up toward Greenbrier, but there's a very, how do I say? Not the most attractive, gigantic brown box that somebody decided to throw up. It's a massive house in the middle of a bunch of houses that are not massive homes. It's so out of place. It looks ridiculous. Yet, there it sits. It was bigger. I don't know about better. It's hideous, but it's bigger. I would have been appalled if somebody built that monstrosity next to me. So I kind of like the intent of maintaining. I mean, I think that's why it got so many positive remarks in our polls. We want the neighborhoods preserved the way they are. We don't want anybody coming in and deciding to, well, I won the lottery, I'm going to build this gigantic monstrosity next to you. Well, I don't know. I think this is, I get how this would be hard to enforce.
Oh, it's going to be.
It's such a.
Just like the accessory
so
buildings,
vague.
it's a lot, because people
Yeah.
have their idea of what they want their accessory buildings to be, and they don't want to, a lot of times they don't want to pay for the cost to build accessory building up to like a house standard, yeah.
Yeah, but I really think the benefit of, and I think Judy's question was very pertinent, because look, we all know that there have been times where I've disagreed with everybody else on the board, but there's wisdom in the bulk of people on the board. And when I've been the one that just kind of disagreed, I don't get upset about it. There's wisdom in the group. And I think this kind of creates a pathway so that when something comes up that the group needs to look at, it gives it an opportunity for that to happen. So I kind of like it. And it doesn't eliminate the possibility for somebody to step outside the boundaries. It just says, hey, come before the board and sell us on it a little bit.
And I thought about doing something as simple as all house plans have to come before the planning commission, but I don't know if that's necessarily what we want to see. All right, well, I mean, if there was anything else, I kind of got it kind of helped me put the next level draft together. It is something very, I know Metro does some things, but kind of the way I envision it be, I think this would be the easiest way to do it. I know it don't sound easy at all, but we'll keep going. The request on Caldwell, 3-acre tract, zoned to R40, so it allows currently, they could roughly subdivide, I think, even to 3 lots. But the goal is to keep the house. They're going to build an awesome place too. They're building a garage and house. They're building them at the same time, building the shop first and then the house come up. But the goal is to have a secondary living quarters back there. And I'm going to try to pull a picture he sent me when I get the internet on here. But what it is right now, we don't allow accessory dwelling units on a piece of property. It would require a zoning ordinance amendment. We kind of talked about this in the past. Accessory dwelling units are popular. A lot of cities around us have it, and for different reasons, the city here has not approved them in the past. There also is a provision as like a secondary dwelling unit. I've worked on an ordinance in another city where someone has a piece of property, it's big enough to subdivide it, but for whatever reason like this, they don't want it the look of a house out front. They want to keep the look, but still have the deal where you can apply through our Board of Zoning Appeals, a secondary dwelling unit that's on the same lot, but it basically limits that lot from being subdivided in the future because it kind of tied the allowable use up for it. So there is provision. The accessory building, what we have now, is 70% the size of the house, has to match it. The heights and things have to match the primary house. Typically on these ordinances that have them, they're intended for family of the home. And that could be, in-laws, mother, that could be children, adult children could live there, or just any aspect of the family. Then some cities have, where it's just accessory dwelling unit where they don't limit. It's just the unit and who chooses to live there. You know, it's not really regulated by the city. It don't have to be associated family members. But it would require an ordinance amendment. Typically, I would want to set these things up where it would be conditional use by the Board of Zoning Appeals. The good thing is, for that, it's a public hearing. There's never done in secret. It's always done in the public. That's the reason, the great thing about the appeals board, the way their review is set up. It does require, we send letters, we put a sign out, so no one ever complained, I didn't know about this. It's open, and they could review the proposal to make sure, you know, I would assume if we do accessory dwelling unit at this point, we'd want to limit to the similar family of some expansive word of the family where it couldn't really be set up as just a rental property anybody off the street could live in. And the tricky thing with that is long-term, you know, if the family sell, what happens to that? But that'd be up to the owners going forward with it, to know what the limit be. And I'm not saying it ever, I don't think this issue would ever be an issue, but I know the concern in the past is that what if it does become a rental? What can we do about it, kind of deal. But like I said, they're very popular. All the cities around us have kind of a provision for this. A lot of people want to see this. And we could even have a minimum acreage where it can only be done on larger tracts, so it couldn't be on a, 10,000 square foot lot, somebody have a second lot. Because a lot of the problems you see where they do that in some cities is, it can get overwhelming for traffic. If you don't really have a lot of parking, all of a sudden you're adding more dwelling units. But if your lot's big enough where you got off-street parking, you just don't have that big of an issue, especially if you're talking about a 3-acre lot. The home 600 feet from the road, I don't think you're gonna have those issues with parking. But I just wanted to see something they'd really like to do. It would probably more than just them, of course, but to get your all's review on it. Something I can bring in something next month if y'all want to see some possible drafts of what that would be. So.
Any questions or comments?
Adam, didn't the BZA have to hear this, something similar to this out Patton Branch or Madison Creek?
We don't have the planning commission's reviewed a proposal on Madison Creek, but we don't have an ordinance yet. I don't think it's ever been to the.
So it was us that heard it then?
Yeah, we've heard different locations over the years, but.
Yeah. Do you remember how that went, the one on Madison Creek?
We discussed it a long time. We had a couple of meetings. I think, honestly, it was more negatives were associated with it than positives. I think everybody thinks they could be a good thing in certain locations, but the possible negatives with it, so. I think the setting of it's key, where it would be, where it wouldn't be. I mean, the key, the design of it and the setting where you drive by and it just looks like two houses crammed on a lot. I think definitely.
There was a time when Airbnbs were massive money makers. And if you were to call up Airbnb and say, what's your 2 biggest cities? It wouldn't be some amazing place in France. It would be Gatlinburg and Nashville, which is weird, but it was true. And people were building them left, right, and sideways and making money selling these properties basically as hotels. They weren't hotels, they're houses and neighborhoods with people that don't want parties every Tuesday night of some random person that came to Nashville for a bachelorette party. But that's what we had. And it was happening so much that every surrounding city started seeing all kinds of requests for DADUs, the detached accessory dwelling units. Everybody wanted to build one, everybody wanted to put it up on Airbnb, and everybody wanted to make a bunch of money creating a hotel in their backyard. So keep in mind, when we were getting some of these requests, the people on this board knew that. And it was not only seen as negative, it was seen as extremely negative. And the thing that we knew was that we were not going to be able to police and keep a family member in this unit or something of that nature. The reality is Airbnbs aren't what they once were. People aren't building them like they were. They're not wanting them anymore. They became an absolute nightmare, hassle. Nobody takes care of them. They're not clean. They're disgusting. And so nobody wants them anymore. So now when we get these requests, it's going to be because somebody has an actual need for a family member to live close to them that they can take care of. So it's just a different, and it's amazing, it's just a couple of years. We're not talking a big time period here. It happened real fast, but it is different now. So yeah, this board was honestly, I remember it being extremely negative on them. But I don't know that we would be now. I don't know that we should be now. It's just an interesting, I think this scenario's kind of different as well, because obviously it's gonna be the same materials, it's gonna match because it's gonna be designed with the same, the architect's gonna design the thing with it. So that negative situation doesn't exist here. But I think just overall, it's just a different time period now with these things. So I'd be curious what everybody else thinks, or if they're still seeing, our neighborhood. I don't know that I would mind seeing some of those, a detached accessory dwelling unit and with an in-law living in the backyard. I don't think it would bother me in our neighborhood. But anyway, it would bother me if it was a bunch of people partying all the time. I would hate that. So anyway, just wanted to kind of explain where we were.
Yeah, I remember. I think that was for a family member too, though.
It was, but the fear was there.
Yeah. The reason why I make that point and ask that is just, I like to be consistent, and not showing any favoritism to anybody kind of thing. So that's why I bring that up. But please, Mr. Chairman, if you're ready, let him.
Yes, sir. Anything to add?
Yeah, just here to really answer any other comments or questions on the matter. I mean, our intent would be that our in-laws live there. I think the important piece here is that the primary home has not been built yet. So there's a way to master plan this together to where it looks right and it looks good. And from the street, a person wouldn't know if that's a pool house, a detached garage, or what it is. So the look would look consistent, with everything else that is around. So yeah, I think Adam's got an example. Right, I think that's a couple miles down the road. So obviously that's not the exact home, but it's an example of an inspirational photo there of what we're going for.
So the two buildings would be close together, side by side?
Correct, yeah. They would be, the guest home would probably be at the end of the driveway, and obviously the home would be adjacent to it. So, my garage would be turned, not front-loaded, it'd be a side-loaded garage. So it would look intentional.
Do you plan on it having, basically being a full basic house? It's going to have its own kitchen, its own laundry room, its own everything?
Yes. Yeah, the thought is 1,000 square foot, something like that.
Okay.
Would be the thought.
So realistically, guys, that's two houses on one lot. We do it, and it happens all over Nashville, but that's basically what that is.
Did you have something to add?
Well, I think too, I think lot size matters when considering this as well. We're talking about a 3-acre lot here. I can understand the thoughts of a half-acre lot or a quarter-acre lot and just the look and feel of the area. And honestly, I understand the comments about the Airbnb. I personally would not like that. Especially in this scenario, me to Airbnb something where I'm literally from here to the wall from that, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So.
I get what you're saying with that. I totally agree. I wouldn't want to do it either. But that doesn't mean that you sell your house, your property, and the next person that comes in and says, hey, this is a good investment property for me, kind of thing. So that's, I mean, I lived next door to Airbnb that was operating in a house as a bed and breakfast.
Right.
And they were partying out in the front yard, you know, passed out. So we were very protective of that, for sure, no doubt. But I understand what you're saying, and that, I apologize, I didn't get back with you. I did get your email, and, but that's what my concerns are.
And I understand that, and they're valid. I would just ask, is there a way to put a restriction on that to where there's no short-term rental allowed on that property? And even any approval of an ADU still requires board approval so that nothing goes under the radar. It's not just a wholesale change, but each one is individually looked at because each case is specific.
Well, we do have that provision. They can't do that, like non-owner occupied, basically, stuff like that. Yeah, as far as the process, I would definitely think if we did it, we do conditional use Board of Zoning Appeals. And I'll bring y'all a draft next month to see where it would be an open situation where it'd be done, you know, at a board for the public hearing, so. But if y'all open to, I can bring in some drafts. I'll probably revise the one we talked about in the past. I know there's maybe some talk about maybe putting an acreage restriction on it, so I can bring that in next month discussion.
I don't think we're unreasonable to look at that. Did you want to say something?
Yes, sir, I'm the in-law. I just wanted to say that we support this initiative, and I just retired from Metro after 39 years, so I understand, Mr. Pennell, the discussion about all that, and there's a licensing requirement now to control that and to maintain it, so there's ways to protect the city from some of those concerns. But anyway, once again, Drew's done a good job of explaining the layout, how it's incorporated into the estate lot, if you will. So thank you for your time.
Can you assure us you won't have any wild parties?
The only way I would have one is if Drew pays for it, and I know that's not going to happen either. And so, and then our neighbors who we're very dear friends with, we wouldn't do that. No, once again, the idea is to, incorporate this in a way that's consistent with the existing neighborhood and make it align, the alignment and so forth. So we want to be good neighbors, and if we have that chance to be present, then obviously we would be good neighbors. And to answer your question, sir, no wild parties from us.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
What else we have?
That's it.
No, sir, I got one thing, Mr. Chairman. At your desk, the City of Goodlettsville Code of Ethics policy is also applicable to all appointed boards, and I know we have not really probably shared that as much as we've needed to in the past. Tonight, I've just given you all a copy of that just so you can have it as reference. Plan on doing that for all the appointed boards, and just want to let you know it is there for your reference. Thank you.
Mr. Coates, you have anything to ask or add, or?
It's interesting. I have to get up to speed here, I think.
Now, next month, I want to have at least a second from you, all right? And just to let you know, this is a very short meeting. We've had some to go much longer than that, but so don't get used to this short of a meeting. So thank you for your attendance tonight, and thank you for the board, and we will see you next month.